our CAM. We can upload values directly from our CAM into our taxation system. That takes about a month's worth of work and puts it in about a day and a half of that we used to go through and do each individual parcel and input it manually, and that also takes away some opportunity for error, just typos and such. So the office has come a long way in the last 5, 6, 7, 10 years. Kind of some of the vision that back in the days of Mary Worley had when DevNet came into play, and some of this how she envisioned us being by now. We're getting there. We're getting awful close, and things are moving along pretty smoothly as far as I can tell.
Good to hear. Any other questions for Gene? All right. Thank you, Gene.
All right.
Appreciate it. You're going to stick around, right?
Yeah, I'll hang around.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Next up, we've got the City of Aberdeen. We've got the City Manager, the City Attorney, and City Finance Officer with us this morning. We're going to talk a little bit about discretionary abatement and the situation we're in. So, who would like to lead the charge?
Well, do you want us to come
whatever
out?
you're comfortable with. Whatever you're most comfortable with there.
I'll hover over you, make you nervous.
The boss is at the back.
Thank you.
I don't want to hijack this conversation, but I just wanted to kind of lay out for the commission the city's process, the city council's process as we're working through a TIF. And I know that this discussion has to do with TIF 35, which we're calling the Dakota Estates TIF, and an abatement request. And typically, before TIF 35, the discretionary formula was always something that would come up as part of a project plan that the developer would submit. Typically, they were waiving the discretionary formula. And for those of you listening, the discretionary formula is an opportunity for typically a new construction, and it's by statute, to get a break on the property taxes for a period of time. If they elect to go through the discretionary formula, then there'll be a phasing in of the property tax, and of course that's all set by statute. In these TIFs, what had happened was the developers were always requested and would always, frankly, volunteer to waive the discretionary formula, which means that the tax is going to come in at 100% as soon as the project is completed, the assessments are put together, that tax is going to come in, and there's not going to be any phasing in up to 100%. So TIF 35 comes along, and for you folks who can understand, I don't know that I'm on it, but it was a apartment complex that was going to be up on the north side of town, and the developer had both within the project plan what we would consider private type improvements. And after much discussion with, I think with our public works director, city engineer, with our city manager, the developer was encouraged to look at adding some public improvements, in fact some road extensions, in order to serve that development that was coming in. And he was also encouraged to include the cost of that as a public improvement under the TIF. And initially, when it came to the council was not comfortable with the private improvement aspect of it. There were some of the costs. The initial project plan request was $1.55 million, which would include both the private type improvements, which I think were mostly the parking lot that the developer wanted to put in, and then also these extensions, which included some street work and a water main loop that was really going to that was going to be beneficial to the city as a whole. But the council didn't approve the first iteration of this TIF, and in fact they denied the TIF. And what I've provided the commissioners is what the city does is a council action request. And for those of you who've seen our packets, but for every item that's on a city agenda, there's a council action request that accompanies that. And we give an overview, and this overview on this council action request for December 20th, 2021, talks about the process that was going on at that time. The council did not approve the Dakota Estates TIF, but encouraged the developer to return with an alternative proposal. You see that in the overview part. And so what the developer did was said, okay, well, we will do, because we see that it benefits our development, but also benefits the city, we will do the public improvements portion, which is the road extensions, the water main loop, those, for our large multifamily apartment complex. But you'll see in the second paragraph there that it says the developer also proposes that it not be required to waive the discretionary formula for assessed value, which is available to it for this commercial development. Because of the reduction in reimbursable project costs, the developer calculates that even with the discretionary formula on assessed value, positive tax increment will pay off the TIF in 12 to 13 years. And the reason I provided the commissioners with the red-lined document that follows, you will see that was the resolution that originally was presented to the council, but with these proposed changes by the developer, you can see the red-line portions there, where we were specifically down in paragraph G on page 204 of the resolution. That's where we put in the developer may waive the discretionary formula. And the council, after weighing all of this, determined, okay, we will approve TIF 35 with these changes. And so the resolution that you're seeing here, redlined, was the red line changes were all cleaned up, and that's the resolution that the council approved. So that's why we're here where we're at today. The waiver of the discretionary formula was a discussed item. I'm assuming, I don't get into the minds of where the developers are coming from on this, but I'm assuming that when you're talking about discretionary formula in the context of a tax increment financing district, you're really talking about projected cash flow. Because the positive tax increment, of course, is going to be reimbursed to the developer or the developer's creditor, whether it's a bondholder or the bank. So that money comes back anyway to the developer. So that's why the developer, if they elected to apply for the discretionary formula, must be concerned mainly about floating that money for the 6-month period or whatever the increment reimbursement would be. So that was the history on TIF 35. And I don't know if that's helpful, and if that's why when it came to the council, when Gene made the request, notified us that there had been an abatement application, Jordan took his time, went through this stuff, and determined that the city would support that abatement request. And so that was the city's formal approval was, I think, was March 25th on that abatement request by the Stencil folks, the Dakota Estates folks.
Can I offer a suggestion in the verbiage from here on out? Typically, it talks about does waive, or at least says may waive. It's probably an easier, one that talks about waive or may waive. I mean, since everything else waived it, I didn't apply it here too. I think if the verbiage actually said, like, maybe may claim they're discretionary,
Okay.
that may have triggered something a little easier for me to question it or say that was an option that's there.
And that's a good point. That's a change we can make easily. I think we're just following with what we understand the language typically is using, but I don't see any distinction at all in that. And I want you folks to understand too that the city is not taking a position that somebody is or isn't entitled to it, because that's a statutory thing, and that's something that the county commission can choose to offer discretionary formulas or not. We're saying that the city won't stand in the way of that, and so that's why the claim would be a better term to be using in the future. And frankly, that's what we'll do. We've got some TIF, at least I know one TIF coming up, and we'll switch that language out to make sure we have that in there. But we try to be responsive to the concerns of both the developer and the commission. By the way, when Gene's giving his annual report, he does an excellent job of communicating these kinds of very complex assessment issues. I see some of those emails that he shares with Jordan, and you do a really good job, Gene. You do a very good job. So, is there anything more? Any questions?
So if I can, to clarify where we're at this point, the application for the discretionary formula was missed at the time that would have simply taken that off the valuation.
Correct.
And taken that amount of money, at least selfishly from the county standpoint, for our revenue stream, and redistributed it amongst the rest of the property owners. And so where we're at now is asking for an abatement after the fact to forgive that, which essentially means that the county is simply gonna refund that out of our revenue and not recoup, and not have an opportunity to recoup it. Is that accurate?
Correct. We're looking at a partial completion of the property in '23, payable in '24. So when the tax bill came out in '24, that was when this came about, that they had, the developer had assumed that they were going to not have the full tax bill of the partial completion, that because they thought the discretionary would be important.
Okay. So, assumption or not, they just had the mindset that it was gonna be applied.
Yeah.
When that's not what we traditionally do under those circumstances. And we've had after the fact where people have had developments and 2 years into it, it's like, why am I paying the full taxes on this? It's because that was part of the agreement for the TIF, is that full amount was gonna go back to pay off the obligation that was entered into in order for those improvements. And it's like, oh, okay, fine, I wish I hadn't done that. Well, you did, and you took advantage of it, we all did, and that's fine.
So, we have TIF developers, we have developers who do a lot of this stuff, they're very sophisticated. We have other developers who are not nearly as sophisticated. Even the sophisticated ones, I think, can get a little bit lost sometimes in the labyrinth of what follows as far as the taxing process and some other processes that we see too. All I know is that the city really doesn't have any involvement at that point. So what the developer may or may not have done, we're kind of
Just trying to clarify and learn for going into the future.
Yeah.
Because I know, in fairness, it's not easy necessarily for a developer either with all, the investments that they're making, the complication, and then you've got, local area, issues, and then for larger corporations that are multi-state, international, it varies from state to state. I know from, the exposure and experience I've had with the Development Corporation, there's a ton of competition, and so, that's an important part of the package, and, having some of these incentives, over a period of time, and, quite frankly, even our closer neighbors, surrounding states and stuff are more aggressive than we are at some point in time, but, it's a complicated situation.
So I'm going to make a concession to the commission too. Following the TIF 35 and the waiver issue, and we'll clean that up, Gene. We got a little lax with the shall and the may notion of the discretionary formula. We're not going to allow them the option anymore. The idea being that it's, just so you understand, the city is robustly taking the position that aside from what the increment generates, there's no other source of payment to holders of bonds or to mortgagors. There's no other source of payment. So we had kind of had this notion that it's on the developer. The developer's taking all the risk. The developer's doing the financing. The developer is the one who's going to decide if the projected increment is going to pay off.
Yeah.
So I'll be honest with you, we have used the may waive language of late, no more. In fact, the newest TIF that is coming up is a shall claim. We'll make sure we have that in there, but we see now that the potential problem with that is if it impacts the length of the TIF, the length of the term. So far, we don't, it's our understanding that none of the other developers are asking to not claim the discretionary formula, or to claim the discretionary formula. I get that back. So I think Dakota Estates TIF 35 might be a one-off on that, but we are cleaning it up and working hard. You know, and when Commissioner Gage came and spoke to the council, there were a lot of points that he made that were well taken. And so we're working hard to clean things up, to be more concise about how we approach these. So we know that we're doing some reclassifications of some of the TIFs to get them away, to get them out of local when they shouldn't be. And in fact, TIF 35 is one, and the state has been receptive to those reclassifications. They've been very good about that. So,
Well, I know when it came before us to approve the abatement, it kind of sent up a red flag, because it's always been, you know, discretionary or the TIF, and this is kind of the first time we've encountered that they're asking for both. And quite honestly, again, like Commissioner Weiss said, selfishly from the county standpoint, that's kind of a double hit to us, you know. The TIF delays the tax revenue we receive, and now we're giving up, I believe the number was approximately $80,000 ballpark.
Yeah.
So,
that you're having
it was kind of a double hit for
Yeah.
us, so that's why we wanted to do a little research and get some facts, and I know, our state attorney has got some advice for us that, we will get from them before we take final action on this, but we appreciate you coming over and explaining your position. Go ahead, Mike.
One thing I was gonna say quick though, in the cleaning up of the language on this, one of the bigger things is right now, if this is approved, we don't even have a mechanism right now to do this. They actually have to build a program because of how it is with the auditor's office, Gene's office, and then Joe from IT who does some of the programming, to be able to go in and take this out without the base and calculations on everything. So, again, we're not doing other stuff that the county normally does to take care of a TIF. That, you know, I mean, what I'm saying here, that with that language not being cleaned up in there, causes a lot of, it costs a lot of time, to be honest, where they're not doing their job that they're supposed to be doing. And again, we're left holding the bag for them. And that's, I know I went over that already at the meeting, and that's where I have one of the bigger problems with it too, but this is just one of the things, because I thought when we talked that a lot of these were coming through one way or the other, right?
Yeah.
As of late, which we appreciate. I'm glad you explained kind of why this one got through in the manner that it did.
To explain how he's talking about how we don't have the mechanism to do this, typically when an abatement comes through, you abate all the entities that are getting a cut out of it. In a TIF, the amount that's abated is going to be the amount in the increment. The base will still continue to be the base, so the county, cities, schools, and all those will still get the same money either way, because the only money they would have gotten would have been out of the base value anyway. The amount being abated is the amount in the increment that would go to the TIF itself. And right now, our tax system, our tax program is not set up to refund money, to pull that one specific part of the apportionment out and replenish that and still keep the basic money going to the county school and everything all together. Nobody ever saw that bug in the program, and now that it's come up, we'll have to do a little reprogramming to make sure the city, school, counties, fire districts, all of those get the same money they would have anyway out of the base, because that's already there and has to be there. It's just the increment part that's actually going to be abated. So we'd have to do something by hand. Our IT is going to have to create something by hand to accommodate the apportionment part of the abatement.
Assuming we approve it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and again, that's a statutory analysis you guys will do with your council
Right.
and decide whether to do that or not. But I appreciate that explanation, and again, Commissioner Gage, wanted more engagement, and I think that's an appropriate thing, and as we continue to talk through these, because we know we have more coming, and that, you know, it's no surprise to you folks, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but you know, this is an enormously valuable economic development tool for the city. And we want to make sure that we're working as well as we can with you folks on what I know is a very complicated process. So,
In fairness, you didn't do this on purpose, and if you could have foreseen this, you probably would have done something to head it off.
yeah.
All right, anyone have any other questions for these gentlemen? If not, we really appreciate the information that you've provided and your explanation, and we'll take action based on the advice that we've received.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
for coming in.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Ron.
it. Thank you.
Thanks, Jordan. Thanks, Robert.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we've got Patricia Kendall, Museum Director, with her annual report. Good morning.
Morning. My apologies for the delay. I had meant to have this ready a month ago, but you know how that goes.
What have you been doing?
Been busy.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks for putting me in between the city and Dirk.
Don't make him late.
No. He told me he's so excited to talk about roads and bridges, so.
Yeah, that's what he does best.
So I'll just be I'll try to be brief. I think in a nutshell, we had a fantastic year in 2023. Super busy, lots going on, and you can see from our report, we never stopped moving, I think, last year. So I wanted to give you some highlights. So we had record-breaking attendance. Last year we had 21,974. Last year we had 14,114. So that is a 56% increase. And that is because of Thomas and friends and our traveling exhibit last year. We won the Abby Award for community involvement for nonprofit. I bring it over, but it's super heavy as well, and a little top heavy. We don't carry it around with us, but we're pretty proud of that. We had our first ever pickleball fundraiser tournament last year, and that was new for us, and nobody else had done one, so we thought that was great. We'll do it again this year with the help of what I call the pickle people. They're very enthusiastic. They're very supportive. And we had it at the Holem, so I have to say thank you to Rachel too for giving us kind of a space there that we could use, and it was nice. It worked out really well. This year we'll be in the Odie because the Holem will be getting a new roof.
Right.
So.
All of them are very competitive.
Oh, okay, so it was supposed to be social play, and there were people out to win. So this year there will be a
Big time.
social bracket and a competitive bracket, so that's what they wanted. So I'm here to accommodate. And then our Holly Open House had record-breaking attendance as well. We had over 1,000 people come through for our Holiday Open House. And I'll just give you a brief summary for our different departments. Our education department, they have a new community worker series. So when they go out to the schools now, they're talking about carpenters and millers and how to, people were to grind grains for a community. Carpenters, building things. A potter, those things that a community, especially in a boomtown era, would need to build up their community. We're still using educational practices learned from Helen Berg. Do we all know who Helen Berg is? Miss Helen Berg. She taught country school for many years, and she was instrumental in starting the museum here, and was our curator of education for many, many years. What she did, she wrote down. There were oral histories and other things, and we look back and we take from her, and pretty much her philosophy was let the student participate in the learning process. Instead of teaching them, you are in collaboration with your students. So I thought that was pretty significant. Our junior docents are in their 31st year. That's Ron Colley's 6th graders. They're great. And they give tours, they help with programming, they help with the afternoon and the past. So between January and December, our education staff visited 373 classrooms. So that they touched on or with 7,280 students last year, and that's Brown County. So it's not just the Aberdeen schools, public, private, homeschoolers, but also Groton, Frederick, Northwestern, who is kind of half Brown County, half Spink. So they make it to all the schools in the county. They had last year 43 school tours and 20 afternoon and pass programs for a total of 1,300, over 1,300 students. So if ever looks like a bus depot over there, in about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it's going to look like a bus depot over there. We get them in, we get them out. So this year we had calls from Webster again, Miller is coming, Ellendale is coming, so pretty much kind of this 100-mile radius we have kids coming. Collection department, so significant artifacts of the year. By the way, we take in usually over 1,000 artifacts, big, little, in between, every year. Hub City Iron, we got quite a few things from them, as you know, that they closed the past few years. Most significant probably this past year was Presentation College and Convent. We got a lot of archival materials from the college, photographs, programs, brochures, books, uniforms, athletic uniforms. We have something from every Presentation College athletic department in our collection, including Spirit, the mascot costume, which we tried on, or our curator of collections did, and just, you know, student athletes wearing it. It was fun. We've got that. And then the convent, we did get some things from the convent. We did work with their leadership, convent leadership, and then the college archivist to get as many items as possible because it was so important to our Brown County history. As you know, the Presentation Sisters were here, started the first hospital, did all that when Aberdeen was just beginning, and Brown County, and really Dakota Territory. So we have all of the Aberdeen Insider in our collection, by the way, in our archives, from the very first, the pre-inaugural copy, which was about the state bees a year ago, and then their very first real edition, and then we're keeping all of those going forward. That is also very significant. From Frank Saponiak, do we know who Frank Saponiak is? He's a friend of Fred Hatterscheit. He's the one who shot the polar bear in our collection in 1969. But we have photos from Japan, from Frank Saponiak's family, when he was there during the Korean War. So pretty significant for us. We got the Longfellow House. That's the Dell House model of the house on North Main Street, the Yellow House, which is actually a copy of the Henry Wadsworth Longfellow House in Cambridge, Massachusetts. We got 47 glass plate negatives of Groton in the 1890s from a gentleman whose wife's family was from Groton. Glass negatives taken in the 1890s, they are so detailed. When you reproduce those and blow them up, they're of storefronts. You can see, like, inside the store, you can see they're just incredibly detailed. They're an amazing find.
They're not pixelated, so.
They are not. They're very, very good. And then we got loads of 50s, 60s, and 70s items from Kay Dixon. Her father was Frank Dixon. I don't know if you know who he was, but he also was a businessman, and I think he ran for legislature and the like in the 50s and 60s. And then we acquired 2,000 square feet of storage space with Advantage self-storage, so we can move a lot of our artifacts out of the building, so we have room for more, and there's kind of room to move, really. I'd be happy to take anybody on a tour of our third floor so that you can see. I think, Dwayne, you've been up there.
I have,
Yes.
a lot of stuff up
Yeah,
there.
it's kind of, yeah. Rack 'em, stack 'em, and pack 'em, as they say. Our exhibits department, so yes, last year was Thomas and Friends, and that really occupied quite a bit of our time. And then the whole process of remodeling our children's exhibit, which came to fruition this month, or this past month now in March. But that took a year. That took a year to plan, so that really consumed a lot of their time. But on top of all that, they had over 25 changing exhibits within the museum during the course of the year. So that you don't snap your fingers and you have an exhibit. I may have explained this before. It takes research, planning, curation, you know, and the like.
You did some pretty extensive remodeling of the facility too. So.
We did take out some walls.
Yep.
Which I always get permission first, by the way, from Judy and our architects to do any of that, if you're wondering. And then we've extended our outreach into the community, so if you, go to the chamber or the CVB, at the airport, we have outreach exhibits there. Plus, we're working on the one for the depot with Heath Johnson, that one should be done soon. And then the Dakota Land Credit Union, also contacted us, and we're going to do some displays, in their public spaces. So we're trying to do that more as well. Oh, and then, Barbecue Twist got some photos from us too, and so if you go in there, we have our watermark on there. And then for the foundation, our museum foundation, so 23 was the first year that they did scholarships for Brown County students going to state-sponsored schools, or to schools in the state, accredited schools in the state 2 and 4 year. We had 8 recipients. They went to USD, SDSU, Northern. This year we have 13 applications for 8 scholarships, and they're picking all over. They're picking Augustana, they're picking School of Mines, as well as the other state schools. And one of them is going to one of the tech schools, so hopefully we'll be able to have representation there too. That's all about encouraging our Brown County students, which there is no, I don't know if there's a 3rd grader in Brown County that we don't have communication with, or that we don't hopefully have some influence over them about Brown County history. So my curator of education said, if you see a 3rd grader, you stop them and ask them, when was Aberdeen founded? And you've got a pretty good chance that they know when Aberdeen was founded. And then, just again, thank you again for fixing our sewer. That was pretty significant work that we had done. Thanks for supporting us and acknowledging our value to the community, or to the county, not only as quality of life, but, the conservator and preservation of our county history, which, as you know, and maybe, any of our departments, the history of what happened before affects the decisions we make today. That could be roads and bridges, even. And other things, those WPA projects that happened, there's our history that affects our decisions today. It's been a good year, in a nutshell.
When you thank us for the sewer, I would be remiss to not mention the city did partner in the repair of that
Thank you.
sewer and extension into the street, so
Yep.
we thank them for their participation also.
Yes.
It made it much more palatable to be able to write that check than the original estimate, so
That's
we
true.
appreciate their involvement.
Yeah, absolutely. Although it was their decision in 1978 to cap it off, without telling us.
Good point.
Yes, yes.
That probably accounts for the reason they participated.
Yeah, yes. It was great.
That's awesome, and it's highlighted in your report here too, but the volunteers that you have are just phenomenal, the amount of time and energy and effort, and,
Absolutely.
yeah.
We could not do what we do without our volunteers, absolutely. We couldn't do what we do without the staff that we have, that you've approved and provided for us. Nobody sits around wondering what to do. It's more like, how am I gonna get everything done in the time available? And I do appreciate the autonomy that we have to make decisions, that you've given us that trust in the things that we do. Of course, we always let you know before there's major remodels and things like that. I hope I keep you up to date and up to speed on everything that we're doing. We don't do anything in the dark, I don't think.
Doors are open most of the time.
Yeah. And then 2024, right now, we're replacing all the carpet on 1st and 2nd floor. Oh, so we just found out, our Main Street entrance, which we don't use, it's an emergency exit, we pulled the carpet up there, the original tile was there.
Right.
So with very little repair work needed to be done. It's that black and white check tile, and then there's some cream tile over here. So we decided not to put the carpet back over the top of it.
Oh.
Yeah, so you have to come by and take a look when it's all finished, repair work. Yeah, what else am I doing?
Or even in process.
In process, yeah, absolutely, you can always come over and see process. But we expect to be busy again this year. I don't know if we'll have record-breaking attendance this year, because we won't have, a big marquee exhibit like Thomas and Friends. We will have a pop culture exhibit this summer, and then a Smithsonian exhibit towards the end of the year. Yeah, any questions?
Nope, you all do a great job over there, and we're proud to have you part of this Brown County community.
Oh, thank you. And this month, I've been here 10 years.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Boom.
Where do you wanna be in 10 years?
Retired.
Maybe in the
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know, but 10 years ago, I would say, oh, I want to be sitting in front of the commission, you know, on a regular basis, yeah.
Here you are, though.
Yeah, here I am.
Awesome, great, thank
All
you.
right, very good report, thank you very much.
Yep,
Thank you. Keep up the good work.
appreciate it. Come and ask me any questions, Scott, afterwards.
Next up, Jason Hill, Department of Legislative Audit with the Audit Entrance Conference. Is he here or online today? Morning, Carl.
You didn't get your note to wear the plaid shirt today,
I noticed that.
but you look sharp.
Neither did we just knew about it, I guess.
They didn't get the memo to wear black.
Yeah, exactly.
Black is a slimming color.
Modern communication. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I guess, Dwayne?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jason Hill. I am an auditor for the Department, or South Dakota Department of Legislative Audit. We're here to start the 22 and 23 audit. This is the first time you guys did a 2-year audit since I've known. But, so everything looks pretty good and same as normal. I expect it to take, I don't know, roughly 300 hours. That's with a single audit, since you guys did have the ARPA fund that you guys used in 22, I believe. Yep. And since that was above the $750,000 of federal money being expended, that's the reason for the single audit. And I believe you guys spent, I think, $6 million or something like that for 3.2. But either way, yeah. So hopefully I can get that started and get that done for you guys. Is there any fraud concerns for you guys? Any waste or anything of that matter that you guys have?
Not that we're aware of at this time.
We have some concerns at the federal level, but we don't get to play.
And if you guys have any concerns, you don't feel like discussing in front of anybody, you can contact me directly. I can give you my card. Also, if you even have probably more serious concerns, you can go onto our website. We have a fraud hotline tip that you can go there and submit anonymously, or you can call our office here down in Pier if you have any larger concerns that you want addressed. But for the most part, I'm always reachable. I'll be in the back room there if you have any more concerns or sessions. That's
You can see if the sun's out or not.
But yeah, so that's, I mean, it looks pretty straightforward audit like before. It's just 2 years instead of 1, and if you guys decide to go back to a 1, I don't know exactly if you're allowed, on your size, if you guys stay at a 2-year audit, or if you guys can stay on a single. I know there's some financial benefits to a 2-year audit just because it's a little cheaper, but yeah, it's just makes the audit a little longer compared to a single year.
We do plan on going back to yearly, it was
Yeah.
just to get everything turned
Yeah.
back around, so.
But yeah, so other than that, I should be good to go. And
We're blessed with a phenomenal auditor, so.
I would say, yeah, it's really nice. But, Dwayne, after you're done, can I talk to you? And then I have some other, like, fraud.
You bet, I'll stop
All
over
right,
before I
okay.
leave. You bet. This is signed, so thank you. If
Yeah.
there's anything you need from us, let us know.
All right, sounds good, thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Jason.
All right, thank you.
All right, next up, Kelsey Bigner, State's Attorney Grant Coordinator.
Kelsey is out today,
Okay.
so if you guys would do a motion to postpone it a week, I just talked to Carla, and she didn't think that would be.
Okay,
Need a motion for that?
please.
Oh.
Motion by Weiss, second by Gage to postpone the discussion with Kelsey Bigner until next week. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next up, Dirk Rogers, Highway Superintendent. Right-of-ways and department update. Morning, Dirk.
There he is.
How's everyone?
Doing good, and you?
Great.
Good. Being that late in the meeting, it's about nap time already.
Yeah.
First thing I got is these right-of-ways, and they're all kinda, I think you can do them with one motion. There's 5 of them. They're all for kind of the same project, but they're just updating their whole system, they being Northern Electric. And I can show you.
Must be spring.
It must be spring. They said they're still working on the frost, letting the frost come out a little bit in some of their areas, so they're not sure how quick this is gonna get going.
Paperwork's done, you got the green light.
Yeah. All right, so these are all kind of the same project. They're gonna bore under County Road 9 at 375th. Both through 9 and through the right of way in the township road on that one. It's gonna be painfully slow, sorry. County Road 7 at 385th, which is 1 mile west of the highway. Updating and going under the road there.
Here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah, pretty much just these little 6 and 7. It's actually this one, I think, is the west one. We have 2 6s that are parallel up there. We're gonna do one right through there. And same thing over on the other one. Right through there. County Road 7 and 184. It's just a mile over from the last one. So they're just basically running the line there, and they're putting in, updating where the bores go to get to the other side. And 9...
So are they
Go ahead.
burying what has been aerial or updating, or?
Some of it is, they're burying some that has been aerial, but they're not getting all of it. I've always asked them that question, and it's a little bit like our road stuff. I mean, in a perfect world, you want to bury everything, but if you had a quick repair 3 years ago and you put up fairly new poles,
Right.
well, we better get the value out of them before, so that's why it's not sit down here and we're doing this.
The buried ones are generally smaller, not
Yep.
high volume kinds of things.
Yep,
In
and
the region, and just so you don't have small poles running down 3 miles to go to a couple of farms, and then they're susceptible, so.
sure, and that's like out where I live, after the last ice storm, everything's underground now, but it wouldn't be if you didn't have the ice storm that caused all the damage
Right.
to begin with,
Right.
So anyways, I recommend them all for approval, and,
Move.
Motion by Weeds, second by Denner. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
I already lost, did I get a little note in here? Thanks.
Method to the madness.
Well, I knew I wrote some, I don't do notes very often, as you can see, this is a really long one.
Pretty extensive.
Yeah, just a quick update on stuff. Last week, obviously, we were chasing the snow and the ice around a little bit, and, today, this week, we're actually, can officially say we're starting spring work. We gotta go around on some unposted roads and haul some small loads, but we're gonna start working on getting 21 down there between 16 and 18, that's gonna be the first thing we pave this year. And there's some bad areas down there by the bridge where the water overtops it. So, we're starting on that today. Start getting it shaped up, and it'll be hopefully the first thing we pave when we can get some mix.
When do you think that'll be roughly? May, June?
We'll be able to get mix probably second week of May. First, maybe a little earlier sometimes.
See how the weather breaks.
Yeah. As far as actually starting to work down there, that's a little bit of a dice roll, and because of the cost of asphalt, we're not gonna be super pressed to get the asphalt work done, because we're gonna use up the money pretty quick. So I'm gonna make sure that we don't start too early on it. If, in the years that we're really frickin' swamped and got a whole bunch of paving, And if we're doing a bunch of overlays where, you know, you're overlaying asphalt, so you don't, the road's probably okay, we'll start a little earlier. But the first two things we're gonna do is gonna be on, will be that one, and then we'll go up and do 9 west of Claremont, west of 37 up there. Those are the, I think will be the first two. And when we're doing that, hopefully we got some guys up getting a mile there by Frederick.
Is that 4 or 5 miles there, down by Stratford? Trying to-
Oh, that's 4, the first mile's paved.
Okay, okay.
Yep. So that's like,
Not too big of a project at least then?
no, that should be, that close to town, I would think, under 2 weeks. I mean, your actual paving isn't gonna be, do like a mile a day probably there, at that location.
And then the Claremont on 9, is that from 37
Two
to Claremont?
218.
Okay,
The other one.
okay.
The one that's milled up.
Yep,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that bridge, we were waiting to replace the bridge, and through pencil whipping and federal regs changing, the bridge went from being posted to not being posted. So, we just let her be, and now we're gonna do the road. So
The new standard.
Yeah, well, I guess you just change the standard if you don't like what's happening, I guess, but
There's no
anyway.
shipping lanes under it, you're probably safer.
I was gonna say, no danger of a freight liner.
No
running
crashing into it. We're all done with our crushing, got that cleaned up and put away, and, that's about it. We're gonna be on 21 for a while. I'll bring up the L word, load limits. We're gonna be, I'm looking at the temps this week, and I would think by the end of this week, we should be able to tell if we're done breaking up or not. I honestly don't think we've had, I don't think we've hit our prime breakup time yet. I might be wrong, but I don't think so. Han County and Beal County both took their load limits off like 2 weeks ago. So, whatever,
Yeah,
but,
time will tell.
They're south of the banana belt.
yeah, I know. But,
It does seem like, you know, the majority of that frost is out, but yet I do think there's just a little bit in spots left in, because you could tell before that last snowstorm, there were spots where one day you'd drive across it and you'd be fine. The next few days, you'd really sink in, but then there were still a handful of spots
yeah.
where I don't think it's come out yet, but most of it has, from everything I can tell.
Yeah.
Now, on the road, that could be a different story than
Well, then it still
where I'm
needs to,
driving around.
it still needs to firm up underneath.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
It was getting there, and then it wasn't getting there.
yeah, yeah. And
Actually, slow is good,
Yeah,
except you can't haul.
yes, I mean,
Right,
slow is good, and people are obviously a little sketchy, 'cause we put the low limits on early, and I'll just say it before someone comes and asks, because you put them on early does not automatically mean they're gonna come off early. There may be a pattern that happens, but those things are not, they're not related.
Right.
So, because I'm already getting calls, and, yeah.
Can't believe it.
It's a new record. We had never been called in March before about taking them off. That's a new one to me.
There's no normal.
The same guy calls, every year, who's at least a third-generation farmer on the site he's on, and he calls me every year and says, "The load limit's on?" "Yep." And he goes, "God damn it!" And he's all mad, and he goes, "Okay, thanks," and he hangs up. And then the same thing happened. He will be one of them, and the next week or so, I'm gonna hear from him, "Hey, when the load limit's are the load limits coming up pretty soon?" "Well, we're gonna, probably another week." "God damn it!" "Okay, thanks." Same guy every year. Had 40 phone calls from him, 2 a year. So, but other than that, no, we're working around load limits too, and doing our best to stay productive. I got, we won't go into a whole bunch of detail, but thank you. I have no problem with the leave of absence situation we have, and I'm glad that we were able to do that for that. It's a good, that's what that's for, in my opinion, but, so. But no, other than that, unless you guys got questions or misery.
Usually it's about Easter time that you go to 410s. That's a ways down the road yet?
I have switched that to, we used to do it with the time change, and then Bush made it so that was
earlier.
Right. And what ends up happening, now, from a functional standpoint, everybody being happy, and me, myself, I would just assume we were on 410s. The reality of it is, things we're talking about here, low limits, until you take the low limits off, you can't operate super efficient. You can't get your whole value, I shouldn't say it that way. It's harder to get your whole value out of a 10-hour day when low limits are on.
Sure.
So,
Makes sense.
I've been kind of tying it to that, and it's been running the 1st of November to 1st of May. And again, not a hard and fast rule if things were different, and the auditor's office is nice about that compared to some I've experienced in the past when we switch hours, so.
We've done it before.
So, but yeah, but I would expect we're gonna be on probably the rest of the month.
Sure.
And then we'll switch them over. And, then kinda excited about getting some stuff going, and, trying to get hands on box culverts is a little tricky. There's a supply thing, so that would be nice to be able to come up with a way to get our hands on them. I'm trying to work with some local folks about maybe making them for us. I mean, just completely outside of the supply chain, get a design and have some local, folks make them for us.
Sure. There are some resources out there.
Oh, yeah, you guys gotta get creative, and, people are a little more, not as open to new ideas as we used to be. I mean, it's not as easy to just go, hey, let's try this.
Sure.
Well, there might be some contaminated soil or some guppies or something that we gotta work around, but.
Schneider somewhere.
Yeah, so, but, unless you guys got anything else, but.
Well, not to scrape something, but since we're talking about an update, what's the status of the guardrail request?
I cannot tell you off the top of my head, it's in the STIP.
Okay.
So there's a bid date scheduled for it. I can look it
So
up.
it's slow, but it's progressing.
Oh, yeah, yep, it's in there, and actually, the state, I don't wanna say this and make it sound bad, but we found an alternative design that will meet their requirements and might be a little less expensive. So, I don't wanna say it's cheaper.
Right.
Some stuff we found in a catalog from China or something, but no, it's just, that was part of the process to try to keep the cost down, is we started with, okay, this is standard, well, is there anything we can do, and between what, IMEG and working with the state, they did get some value engineering into it, so that I think should have a pretty decent number, not have to kick in too much more over the grant, so, over our match.
We're always making new mousetraps.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Always gotta look at them. You look like you're gonna tell me to do something.
No, I was just gonna mention that you brought in the contracts for the bids that he awarded back in February, for the gravel and the rental equipment and stuff, so
Okay.
for you to sign.
Okay.
Sorry I let them pile up there a little bit. I used to bring up a couple a week, and then you won't get writer's cramp signing them.
Not a problem, not a problem.
Okay.
The road leading to the fishing dock up the Elm, that's a done project, all the i's are dotted and t's are crossed.
I submitted, I sent in my reimbursement stuff, and I got a response right before last weekend. They're a little, I don't want to use the right word, they're asking questions about the engineering costs. So, I just gotta send them the documentation of that. I think the way they look at that, they're getting a little, they had mentioned that earlier about wanting to use like the engineers who were working on the VEET project and they were trying to piggyback more things to that existing project for this one. I mean, we cut $3.5 million out of it by doing it the way we did it, so I'm trying to think of a nice way to point that out. If we would've dug our heels in and said, sorry, build a bridge, we'd still be sitting up there. So, I don't think that we won't get our money back, it's just they're gonna be a little more persnickety, not saying too much about the construction costs, but they're wondering a little bit about the engineering, but I don't think they totally understand that there was a lot of legal stuff that had to happen legal property stuff that you have to delineate in order to do that, so. but, so, we'll see. But yeah, as far as being done and being in use, we have to verify some elevations on the top of the auxiliary spillway to make sure we didn't impact anything there, but outside of that, it should pretty much be done, so.
Good.
And they're using it, they had
Mhm.
the fishing tournament up there a month ago, and it seemed to go well, so.
Good deal.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Dirk.
You guys have a beautiful day.
Thanks,
Stay
Thanks,
well.
Dirk. Before we start the consent calendar, do we want to, go into exec to discuss the abatements?
Let's do that after, if you don't mind.
Okay, no problem.
Okay.
Consent calendar.
Approval of the general meeting minutes of March 26th.
Move.
Motion by Weiss, second by Gage. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Claims.
Move. Second.
Motion by Denner, second by Weiss. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
HR report.
Move.
Motion by Weiss, second by Gage. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Annual report for 22 and 23.
Move. Second.
Motion by Weiss, second by Denner. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
2023 corrections to the landfill charge account.
Move. Second.
Motion by Gage, second by Weiss. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Travel request.
Move. Second.
Motion by Denner, second by Weiss. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Any other business to come before the Brown County Commission this morning?
I have one thing.
Okay.
I want to know who plans on being on equalization for the county.
I plan on it. We need 2 or 3.
3.
For consolidated, we need 3.
I probably can.
Sutton, Gage, and Denner? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Allison requested an exec if she was done with what she had to. She is, okay. Wasn't sure if she'd be done. So personnel for sure, and then we need to discuss some legal issues.
If anybody wants a copy, you know.
If there's nothing else, I would entertain a motion to go into exec.
Move. Second.
Motion by Weiss, second by Dennard, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay, motion carries, we are in exec. It is
You
back
did so
on,
well
we're
with
back
it.
in session, out of exec. At this point, I would entertain a motion regarding the request for an abatement on some commercial residential property.
All right, I'll make a motion to deny the abatement on that pursuant to the fact, after research, that we currently do not have a resolution allowing us, and under state statute, they should be under a 7-year discretionary, and since we currently do not have a resolution that allows for a 7-year by statute, we do not have a resolution that would allow us to abate this at this time.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Gage, a second by Dennard, to deny the request for abatement. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Any other business come before the Brown County Commission this morning?
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion by Weiss, second by Sutton to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned.